is in step with some of his comments. Water is the key to the American West. The production of food and fiber on western irrigated lands is critical to our nation's ability to feed itself. You cannot visit the West and not talk about water. No other commodity holds so much power, so much promise, and has the potential to cause so much conflict. I think the folks in this room can relate to those couple sentences. Water certainly generates a lot of passion and interest in Utah and the American West. The legislative session that we just concluded, using the top of the page there on the front page, just over 800 bills with another just over 100 resolutions for a total of just over 900 bills and resolutions that were before our lawmakers this past session, with just over 50% of them passing. Of that many, 14 bills related specifically to water, and this handout is an attempt to summarize those 14 bills. Turning the page, I don't intend to summarize each of the bills on the handout. You can do that on your own time, but I have starred a few on my handout that I want to highlight. The first one is there on the second page, the top, SCR 5, Bear Lake Concurrent Resolution, and I star that because we are in northern Utah and rely heavily on the Bear Lake here, or many of you do. This, as you'll see there in blue, this resolution did not advance through this legislature and did not pass. But I pause on this resolution just to state the point that this resolution was an attempt to stress the importance of Bear Lake, not only from an agricultural standpoint, but from a development standpoint, ensuring the quality of the Bear Lake, not only the water, but the surrounding communities. And if this resolution were to pass, could it potentially set the stage for future resolutions to be sponsored and potentially passed by other communities and water bodies throughout the state? And is there pros and cons to that? Perhaps. But I vocalize that rhetorical question as something for some or all of you folks to consider. Is what are the values or wisdom in passing a resolution, not just this one, but resolutions in general, and then as we dial that down, in passing a resolution on protecting and enhancing water bodies throughout the state. I could take a stab at that. Is Representative Draxler still in the room? He had to leave for a minute. A resolution is not binding. It's not a law. It's a statement. And there's past legislators in the room, so please stand and add to my comments. But a resolution is just that, a statement. Some are joint resolutions. Some are concurrent resolutions. Joint leans on the governor to also sign the resolution, whereas a concurrent does not. Whereas the bill, of course, goes on the books, the Utah law books, and is hopefully enforced. That's a Reader's Digest attempt at answering the question. Past legislators in the room want to add to that? Bob?
Does it kind of, I'm not a legislator, does it kind of set the course of something that the legislature in the future won't move against? So, I mean, even though it's not a law, doesn't it kind of give guidance?
Yeah, but Bob Fotheringham's comment is a resolution is an attempt to give guidance from the legislative body of the state that they are agreeable in the direction in which the resolution dictates. As I said on the front page, 111 resolutions. That is an all-time record high in the state of Utah. A number of them on public land issues. But yes, I would agree with your comment there, Bob. The next bill down there, HB 39, I highlight that one just because it was sponsored by Representative Draxler, and I thought I would lean on him to summarize the bill, but it is a brief bill that gives proper notification, communication to shareholders in the event that their application lapses. Skipping down to the bottom of that second page, HB 428. I want to pause on this bill. It's a task force bill, establishes a legislative task force in the state of Utah. I believe 8 representatives and 4 senators that will meet probably 5 or 6 times between now and Christmas. And their charge is twofold. One is looking at different ways of financing water projects in the state of Utah. Right now, as many of you know, 1/16% of our sales tax is routed towards water development projects. As soon as that tax revenue climbs to the amount of 17-point-something million, then the revenue beyond that goes to other funds. And you folks know that $17 million in developing water projects in Utah is not a lot of money these days. I know the state engineers here and others, but I believe the Lake Powell pipeline project is over $1 billion. And there's a host of other projects, of course, taking place throughout the state. And so $17 million doesn't go far. The idea here is, as you've heard in the media, Utah has a great bond rating score compared to other states throughout the country. And we lean on that bond rating to help fund our education system, among other things. Is there wisdom, and this is what the task force will look at, is there wisdom of tapping into that model of using our bond rating to further fund education? Can we use that model to further fund water projects in the state of Utah? There's one of two. And the second is, right now in state law, the management, the distribution, the charge of issuing water rights, that part of the state law is lumped in with other nonprofit organizations. Mutual irrigation companies are part of museums and art galleries and other such organizations that are nonprofit in nature. Is there wisdom to carve out the mutual irrigation system company, part of that law, and create its own chapter on the state law books? Those two things are what this task force will be looking at, and your input between now and when those legislators meet, of course, would be helpful. Turning the page to the final page, top of that third page, House Bill 438, Water Quality Board Amendments. Right now, the Utah's Division of Water Quality helps administer the Water Quality Board. I believe it's an 11-member board. Currently, 1 member of that board represents agriculture. The sponsor of this bill felt like with nearly 80% of Utah's water being consumed through agricultural purposes, perhaps there's wisdom in increasing the agricultural representation on that Water Quality Board to better reflect the consumption of water in the state of Utah, going from 1 ag rep to 3 agriculture reps. In the end, that bill did not pass. Senate Bill 10, Senate Bill 20 are closely related bills, are piggyback bills on what passed last legislative session, primarily affecting those water users down in southwestern Utah. Senate Bill 102, now at the bottom of that page, again is a piggyback bill to a year ago bill. In the event of a natural disaster in the state of Utah, or here in Logan, I choose as an example, how are the water needs of the public citizenry of Logan, how are those water needs going to be met if water lines are severed, et cetera, et cetera? This bill is an attempt to help address that. Right now, municipalities can exercise eminent domain to acquire water in the event of an emergency, but this bill is an attempt to, no one likes eminent domain, and so this bill is an attempt to create an option for that. And essentially, the bill that passed a year ago was in the state of an emergency, and therein lies the first question, what is an emergency? And so it was defined as when the governor declares it as an emergency. In that case, then Logan City, for example, can go to neighboring farmers, ranchers, municipalities, where there is water available, and purchase that water on a temporary basis at fair market value to the farmer in this scenario. The farmer still maintains the share and the right to the water. It's just conveyed or distributed temporarily. And also the compensation for the water, but also for the potential loss of crop, the hay that may not be grown. There's compensation for that. And then it's for a certain period of time, and then the water must then be given back to the original shareholder. That's going down a risky road, and I'm looking at your faces, and I can see some of you nervous with that. We operate in the West in a first in time, first in right philosophy and concept and doctrine. And are we eroding away at that doctrine through the passage of this law? That's certainly a valid perception that many of us have. This bill here on the paper, SB 102, after the passage of last year's bill, Department of Defense contacted a legislator here in Utah and said, hey, in the event of a natural disaster, we still need to get F-16s in the air and train our troops for the security of our country. Can we be lumped into municipalities in the events of disasters? So this bill passed. Finally, SB 108 gives those who have stock in water the ability to move water from point A to point B within a ditch or canal. However, there must be a written contract for that to take place. I suspect a presentation later today will dive into that a little further. I want to shift gears now in my remaining time to a few issues that are not on your handout but that are before us as we now set the stage for the 2012 legislative session. The first is transferring of water from one company to another. The past 150 years, we have appropriated water, of course, throughout the state of Utah. And we today sit at roughly 2 million people in Utah. And for the most part, Utah is fully appropriated. There is limited water left to develop and to appropriate. The governor's office tells us the next 30 years, we will double the population in Utah. So therein lies one of several questions. Where will we find the water to quench the thirst and needs of the next 2 million people in the next 30 years? There are many believe, for good reason, that water is going to come from the backs of farmers and ranchers. How can we move the water from agriculture to municipal and industrial use, all while maintaining a viable and sustainable agriculture industry in the state of Utah, and maintaining viable, sustainable water companies in the state of Utah? There's an appetite on Capitol Hill and beyond that feel, and perhaps strongly feel, that the current way of distributing water through open ditches and canals is an archaic way of distributing an essential commodity. We need to modernize our distribution system through pipes, pressurized pipes, and at all costs, let's move that direction today. And of course, therein lies an enormous expense to do that. Open ditches and canals presents liability concerns and challenges, as you folks know. But there is that mentality out there. And politically, there have been attempts to overcome this perceived archaic water distribution system. And so there's one dynamic currently at play, is we have 30 more years to figure out how we're going to quench the thirst of 2 million more people. All while that dynamic is at play, redistricting is at play. By and large, generally speaking, urban legislators don't understand water law and the importance of moving water from the mountaintops to the valleys. Water comes from the tap, just as food comes from the store. And we are now starting the early formal stages of redistricting in this state, as you know, and that's going to yield, when it's all said and done, less rural representation. Probably 2 more representatives in Salt Lake County, probably 2 more in Utah County, and 1 more in Washington County. Perhaps, I haven't looked in Cache County, maybe you gain another one, I don't know. But by and large, rural Utah will see a net loss of representation. That will hurt, in my view, passing ag-friendly water legislation. So there's dynamic number 2. And number 3 is this political appetite of water comes from the tap. And water is not a priority, nor is its funding. You combine those dynamics, and we've got some significant challenges in moving agriculture water to M&I. If rural Utah and the agriculture community does not adequately step up and compromise our historical position or accurately flesh out some valid solutions to that real challenge, then I predict that the legislature will be fed up because they are investing millions of dollars into incentivizing businesses to Utah, only to have Procter & Gamble or Micron, or I'm just pulling some businesses out of the hat, come to Utah only to turn away and go somewhere else because a mutual irrigation company said, we're not interested in finding some water for you. That dynamic, and I may be exaggerating a bit here, but I believe to some degree there's some truth in that. Legislature will say we can't afford to have a volunteer mutual irrigation company turn away a business. So the legislature will drop the hammer and pass a bill that may not be in our best interest. And I believe that potentially could come sooner rather than later if we don't extend ourselves to find some level of solution to that. Canal liability. One year ago, there were 2 canal maintenance bills that were passed, and I know that's on the agenda shortly, and I won't go over those. But there is an appetite still on Utah's Capitol Hill to mandate all canal companies, all roughly 1,200 canal companies in this state, to have adequate liability insurance. Right now, it's estimated just over 20% have adequate liability insurance. Are we comfortable with that as a canal industry? And if so, who's going to pay the monthly premiums for adequate insurance? And I'm segueing now into a growing chatter out there that at least I'm hearing do water companies, canal companies have the will, the desire, the stomach to entertain, if not pursue, sharing, if not giving full liability to cities, if the city is, of course, willing to counter with something else. The mentality of many folks across rural Utah is that's the last thing we want to do is hitch ourselves with government. But given the canal break here and the canal break 12 years ago in Davis County, and as we grow population and we surround these canals with development, those are some questions that need to be answered probably sooner rather than later, because there are a handful of legislators that would love to mandate liability insurance and get others that may not know the ditches and canals to survey them and to draft management plans that may not be in the best interest of those who are depending on those canals. Let me end with groundwater management plans. I believe there's 10 or maybe 11 groundwater management plans throughout the state. Have those management plans served their purpose? Is there wisdom to pursue more groundwater management plans? Are they in the best interest of urban and rural folks? Are we moving into an era where groundwater management plans provide a surety and protection to not only those managing the aquifers, but also the users of the water? I'll stop there. Is there, Bob, time for a question or two?